Hey, how's it going? On today's show, it's one of my favourite podcasts and a fun countdown with a very entertaining host. And welcome, this is my guest list pod. My name's Darren, and this is a show where the guests on my list get to have some fun with their favourite list countdowns, and along the way we get to know them and their work a little bit better. If you'd like to get in touch with the show and tell me what you like and tell me about all the things I'm getting horribly wrong, or you're a podcaster and you would like to be a guest on the show, you can find me at my Gmail, my Twitter and my Instagram, all at my guest list pod. So the way the show works is this. My guests pick a topic from a list that I give them, and together we count down from 10 to 1 in that topic. Along the way, we take breaks and ask the guests some questions to get to know them and their show just a little bit better. In essence, the show is one big advert for everyone else's work. But for me, it's a chance to support a media that I have enjoyed for years, and the bonus is I get to speak to some really talented people and support their work. However, this was only my second attempt at an interview, and I was using an old computer that wasn't really cutting the mustard. Not to mention that the room I was in was about 6 degrees Celsius. Anyway, if you like trivia, today you're in luck, as I get to interview the host of a very funny trivia show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy what was a very fun chat. And today, our podcast in question is a live trivia show from way up in North Bay, Ontario, Canada. The hosts of the show are two genial and very witty guys, a couple of good Canadian boys who work a bit blue and present trivia in an adults-only format. As soon as I heard these guys, I knew they were going onto my permanent rotation. Not only did I like the challenge of the trivia, but the natural comedic chemistry between the two hosts made it a scream to listen to. I'm sure that people that come to their trivia come as much for the comedy as they do for the questions. And in the words of its host, if you like to laugh, learn and explore your body just a little too often, then welcome to Super Fun Time Trivia.
If this is your first time doing trivia with us, the way that it works is pretty simple. There are 4 rounds of trivia. There are 3 general knowledge rounds and 1 music round. The theme of tonight's music round is going to be animals. So all the song titles or band names will have an animal in them. I ask a question. You got about 30 seconds to answer that question. At the end of those 30 seconds, I say board's up. You hold the board up. I say the correct answer. If you have the correct answer, you leave your board up. If you have the incorrect answer, you put your board down. Kevin, who's this gentleman over here, will go around and he will swing his mullet at you back and forth, and then he will say your team number.
I'm not going to do that. I'll get a head rush and pass out.
I'll get a wiener rush if you do it too much.
I know. I know you like it.
Anyways, when he says your team number, put your board down, draw a picture of him on it, and think about him naked for a couple minutes.
Gross.
And then whoever gets the most points at the end of each round is going home with a couple prizes from the Moose and the fine folks at Sleeping Giant. The only rule of trivia is that there are no cell phones allowed during the trivia rounds. If you take your cell phone out during the round, we will take all of your points off of the board, and then we will donate it to the North Bay Warming Center. I'm sure that they could find some use for it.
Sure.
Depending on how good of a cell phone it is, they might even get more than 750.
So without further ado, from North Bay, the heart of Ontario, Canada, he is the master of mirthful trivia, the jester of general knowledge. He'll let you into trivia even if you're from Sudbury, Italian, or a ginger. He's the host of Super Fun Time Trivia, Fournier. How are you, mate?
Good. But I got to say, if you're Italian, we might not let you in.
Okay. Look, I understand that. But isn't your girlfriend Italian?
Yeah.
And that's part
She's not allowed to come to trivia either.
Okay. Fair. Unless she's filling in for Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was only one time, and that was because Kevin was super sick. But any other time, stay at the door.
Fair enough. Understand. How is Kevin, by the way?
Good. He's still alive, which is surprising to everyone. When coronavirus was ravaging Canada, we definitely thought that he'd be one of the first to go, but he's still kicking.
Well, very good. Good on Kevin.
Yeah, man.
Very good, mate. Thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I guess the first thing we should do is let everyone know what your show's about and how long you've been doing it and how it came to fruition.
Yeah. So Super Fun Time Trivia has been around for about almost 7 years now in November. Me and Kevin were both working at a restaurant, and the 2 guys that used to be doing trivia retired, and me and Kevin got the job, and we changed it from the old school style trivia of like the regular pub trivia that you might know to a slightly different thing where we make fun of the audience and call everybody idiots and make a lot of offensive penis and fart jokes, and just basically have a good time. And people seem to like it, so we just kept going for, like I said, 7 years. I can't believe it. I actually had hair when this started, and life's a little different now.
So you pretty much just class the place up everywhere you go.
Something like that, yeah.
Very
I don't
good.
know. I know that this is a radio style show, but if you could see a picture of myself and Kevin, you would not think they were classy in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I'm sure once everybody decides to take a listen, that they'll change their view. As soon as I heard you guys, I thought to myself, this is funny, and I'm going to listen to this again. And I think I've gone through every one of your COVID shows. So, do you want to explain to everybody what the COVID show is?
Oh yeah. So our podcast originally started. Somebody said, you should record these live shows that you do. We were doing about 2 to 3 a week, and you should put them up on the internet. So I was doing that for about 2.5 years when suddenly the whole COVID thing happened, and all of our shows just ended up getting put on the back burner. And part of me thinks that I might have actually caused the COVID, because I was in bed one night and I was looking at all of these back episodes that I had recorded that I still had never put out. And I was like, man, if only there was something that could happen in the world that would allow me to just have a lot of free time off and not be recording any new episodes. And all of a sudden, like 3 days later, hey, guess what? Trivia's canceled for the foreseeable future. So I started putting out an episode, the old recorded episodes, unedited, like between 5 to 3 a week, just to try to give people some extra stuff to do, because I knew a lot of people were at home, or the people that weren't at home were working, the jobs that were quote unquote essential were having a rough go. And yeah, just try to give a little bit of joy and pleasure to the people of the world in these trying times.
Well, as someone who is still in lockdown here at the moment, because people in our state for some reason haven't done exactly the right thing, but it's also a bit of a government stuff up here and there, I really appreciate the fact that you did put those out, because while I was doing what I had to do, I was listening to you guys a lot. So it was making the day go a little bit quicker listening to you guys make fun of everything. So it was really good. I really appreciate
thanks,
it.
dude.
Cool. Not
Thanks.
a problem. So what did you do while you were in lockdown? I know there were some projects that you had on the go. Like most people will appreciate that, because you actually do a live show and you record that all the venues were actually closed down. So you couldn't do that. What were you doing in the meantime?
Luckily and unluckily, I have a house that needs a lot of work, so I was just doing housework stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in between that, I was having a lot of soul searching and just general. I think everyone can sort of get behind the idea that the world was suddenly a very different place, and just spending a lot of time with friends and family where you could, within the legalities of whatever the law is, and just sort of appreciating this new amount of time and the new world that we have going on.
You did actually also start a new project that, there's been one instance of it on Twitch already.
Oh yeah. We decided to take the trivia online. I was kind of hopeful at the beginning. I thought this whole thing was going to blow over in a couple weeks. It obviously went on. It's still going on. So we decided to move our trivia online onto Twitch so that people could play it from the comfort of their own homes. And that was something that we had been thinking about doing for a while, had never really gotten around to, because I'm a pretty busy dude. I have had a lot of other jobs. And yeah, it's cool because a lot of the people that listen to the podcast, the majority of the people that listen are not from Canada. The majority are from the States, Australia, UK, a couple people in South America, like all over the world. So it was nice to give people the opportunity to actually come and play trivia with me and Kevin, where they previously had just been able to listen to our stupid voices on the internet.
Yeah, you do actually get to see you both too, which is actually pretty funny too. So that's cool.
Yeah, getting to see just how ridiculous we look on a regular basis, and Kevin's continuous eye rolling at me. It's just, a really mutual hatred of each other.
Fantastic. And that's the chemistry that comes across in your show. So keep that up.
Oh, thanks.
All right, mate. So today I get everyone to count down a top 10 in an attempt to get to know the host of the show a little bit better. Now, you have picked something that I didn't think you'd pick. I thought you would have picked something to do with music, being a musician yourself and, into pop culture and stuff like that. I guess this is pop culture, but I thought you might have picked something else. You've picked scariest horror movies.
Yeah, I am a huge horror aficionado. It's like my favorite style of movie in the whole world. I've seen loads of them. And like there was a couple other things that sort of sparked my interest on your list, like sports, because I also love sports, as everyone who knows.
Yeah. I don't think being honest there somehow.
That was a bit of a lie.
Yeah.
But horror movies are like were my bread and butter for a long time.
Yeah.
So I was really glad to see that there.
Now, the list you've got here, I have seen it, obviously. You've sent it through to me, so I've had a look. Are you sure these are your scariest horror movies and not just movies that you like?
No, well, okay. They're not... Was it scariest? Was that what the thing was?
Yeah, it was the scariest horror movies, yeah.
Well, I don't
Doesn't
know if they're necessarily the scariest, but I think that they all do something really, really well in a different way.
Yep.
Like, some people are afraid of the jump scares. Some people are afraid of like body horror, which is, like Hostel, where people are getting their eyes pulled out and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Some people are afraid of more realistic stuff like Paranormal Activity or whatever. Mm-hmm. But these 10 movies that I picked all do a thing very well. And they're spooky in their own sort of way. And they're also, along with that, just my favorite. 1 of 10 of my favorites, so whatever, I don't care.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I had a look at them and I thought, well, I agree that they all do something really well and they're not the same in terms of what they're providing in terms of the type of horror. So I really like your 10. My top 10 would probably be a little bit different and, like the Blair Witch Project and things like that. Probably that sort of stuff's more my go. But there are a couple on here that I love as horror movies, and I'm not a big horror movie fan, but there are a lot of movies on here. There are a couple that I haven't actually seen as well. So I actually went and watched a couple of them because I didn't actually know what they were about. So let's start with your number 10. So number 10?
Number 10 is going to be Saw. I know that the Saw franchise has kind of turned into something different as time has gone on. Well, it hasn't really turned into something different. It's done the same thing repeatedly, which is cool. But that first Saw movie, when it came out, was the idea of like getting kidnapped and having to do something awful to escape. Very scary. And then second, the twist at the end. Now like you can sort of see a twist coming for miles, but at the time, I remember being in the theater and literally everyone in the theater being like, "Oh my God." And it just, again, it's the type of movie. Yeah, it's groundbreaking. And it also really scares me. Just the idea of like me walking down the street and someone coming up behind me and putting a little needle in my neck and then me waking up in like a bed of barbed wire or something like that. Yeah. It's just a very spooky, scary, realistic.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. Yeah. It's something that could happen.
Exactly. It's not like a monster movie where there's a part of you that knows, monsters aren't real. Scary people are real. Yeah. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and look, that's, I guess, the Aussie contribution by way of Malaysia on the list because James Wan is actually based in Australia, I think, now. So he's done a few other movies that you've probably watched as well, Annabelle and stuff like that, and Insidious, which, I wasn't. I thought Annabelle was better. Insidious wasn't a big fan of, but he did Fast and Furious 7, which is crap. So no, I'm only joking. I actually like the Fast and Furious franchise, just not after about the third movie. So
after Fast and Furious 82.
Yes, Tokyo Drift was the last one I liked, I think. So the one in Brazil, I can't remember. I think it's 5 or something like that. That was okay as well. Yeah, so he's by way of Malaysia. He's a Malaysian-born Aussie guy. So
okay, cool. I did not know that.
Yeah. So, all right, number 9. Now I've got to ask you with this one. We talking the 1982 version of The Thing?
Yeah, we're not talking the
okay.
remake.
Cool. So sorry, mate, I've let the cat out of the bag there. Number 9 is
The Thing.
Yeah.
And the reason why this one is on the list is, again, it does a couple of things really good, in my opinion. That whole idea of being completely isolated. A lot of times with horror movies, the only way that the plot line really works is if like a lot of people are really stupid. In this movie, it's nobody really acts stupid. You know, everybody is genuinely afraid because this thing can take whatever physical representation that it wants, and people can't just, you know, run to the neighbor's house and call for help. They're 100% stranded. They know that there's no help coming. They know that they're on their own. And the second thing is the practical effects are just top notch. Have you seen The Thing?
Yeah, no, I have. I have seen it a long time ago, probably when it first came out, considering, you know, I'm a lot older than you. So I remember seeing it back in the 80s.
And it still holds up. Like
definitely.
When you watch it, there's no part of you that's like, oh, this looks really fake. Like, it genuinely, honestly, is just one of the best practical effect movies that I've ever seen. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it's
when it turns that dog into the wolf, or the dog into the Thing sort of thing, it's pretty cool for the time. The effects were pretty good.
Yeah, or even when the chest cavity opens up and chops the guy's hands off.
His arm off, yes. Yeah, that was a really good scene. And that was pretty freaky, actually. I must admit, that was pretty unexpected.
And they even had, apparently, I'm not sure how true this bit of movie trivia is, but I read it on the internet, so it has to be true. But for that scene, they actually used a double amputee that had fake hands on, so that when it chops it actually chops the fake hands off, which is why it looks so real.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Hey, I didn't know that. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and look, at John Carpenter, you can't go wrong with a movie from this guy, like Escape from New York. Are you a Halloween fan?
I'm gonna say something. If anyone's listening to this that likes horror movies, is gonna be really upset by. I've never actually seen a Halloween movie.
Oh, okay. Oh.
I don't know why. I just have never gotten around to it. I have a lot downloaded.
Look, the original Halloween, I was talking about this with my eldest boy the other day, and like I said, I'm not a big horror fan. I really don't like the Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger style stuff where you just can't kill them. They just keep coming back. It takes away from the story for me. So I'm not a Halloween fan, although I thought Halloween, the original, and H2O, the 10-year anniversary movie, wasn't bad. But yeah, I don't think you're missing a lot with Halloween. I know it's sort of like a sci-fi fan not watching Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're missing a huge amount. So yeah,
it's like one of those, you know, it's a classic, but I know I'm probably not going to like it as much as I quote unquote should.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, that's cool. All right, number 8.
The Guest. This is a cool one because I watched this when it first came out in 2014.
Okay.
And the dude who is the main character, I really can't say too much about this movie without ruining it, but the guy who is the main character is now a really famous actor who was not at the time. Dan Stevens, he plays the Beast in the live action Beauty and the Beast.
Yep.
He plays I'm gonna just go to his IMDb just to see what else he's in. Oh, he's in that new movie Eurovision Song Contest, Story of Fire Saga. He's one of those dudes that just like is so handsome and charismatic, and he just carries this movie so well. And the soundtrack is amazing, and the entire premise is amazing. Basically, this gentleman who is friends of this family's brother shows up at the house and basically says, hey, I served with your brother in this war. It's either like the Iraq or the Afghan war. They don't really talk about it. But he told me to take care of you no matter what, that I had to make sure that you were okay. And I'm here for whatever you guys need. And they're like, great, thank you. And then the movie continues on from that point. And again, it's one of those movies where it's just his acting is what sends it over the top. He is so incredibly charismatic and likable and one of those movies where someone might be doing the right things for the wrong reasons or the wrong things for the right reasons.
Oh, okay, so you don't find that out until I guess further into the movie. So
Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't know which guest you were talking about with this movie. So the guest movie that I've seen was a 2010 short film. So I wasn't sure which one you were talking about here. So I'll have to put that on the list to go take a look at. So 2014, you said 2014. So
Yeah, with Dan Stevens.
Stevens, the very handsome Dan Stevens.
So handsome. He's like a better looking Ryan Gosling.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well, that's big praise. So
I know that's a bit much, but I think it's true.
Okay. All right. So your number 7.
Okay, this is. Remember how you were saying that you don't like those kind of campy horror movies with the guys that never stop coming back?
Yes.
My number 7 is Freddy 3 Dream Warriors, because the original Freddy Krueger is pretty good, pretty spooky. The second one is pretty good, pretty spooky. The third one, they really like tune into that stupidness where it's over the top. It's ridiculous. There's a scene where Freddy Krueger is fighting this punk rock chick, and his glove that's previously like knives turns into hypodermic needles, and he stabs her with it, and her like open, track marks are little mouths that are saying,
yes.
"Oh, feed me," and it's just so dumb and so good. And it when there's a movie franchise that realizes this is what we're doing, like we're not going to try to be serious anymore. We're going to sort of feed into that silliness of this idea of this unkillable murderer. It really just pans out well, I think, and that's sort of the beginning of when they started to do that, I think. Yeah,
I remember the other scene from that movie was the kid in the wheelchair who in the dream can now walk and becomes some sort of a wizard or something like that, and decides and then Freddy sends his chair that's got all these knives and things after him. So it was just nuts. And I think the other bit of that movie I remember is the house, or there's something that bursts through the floor in the house. It looks like this disgusting Freddy snake that tries to actually engulf and swallow. Is it Patricia Arquette? It's one of the Arquettes, I think.
Not 100%. I don't think it's David.
No, I don't think it's David. No, I think she plays the main role. Yeah, and then the Nancy comes in and saves her. So, like you said, it was
Oh, it is
big.
You get good eye. It is Patricia Arquette.
Yeah, that's when she was a small, not a medium.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Little TV joke. Remember? Do you know the show Medium?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. That was a whole trip to get to.
Yeah.
That one.
That was look, I do really well at trivia with that sort of joke. So
I think, what, if Kevin's ever sick again, you can come fill it in.
Yeah, fair enough.
Isn't she a psychic too?
Yeah, she's a psychic in Medium, and she helps the police.
And she's a psychic in this, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think that's part of her power, because she can bring people into the dream, and that's how she brings Nancy and the others into the dream to fight Freddy. Yeah, and then the TV tries to eat her too. There's so much stupid stuff in that movie, and it's so good because it's so stupid, and it just knows it's stupid. And to be honest, that's why I don't mind that movie. Of the Freddy franchise, that Freddy 3 is actually probably one that I don't mind, because I get a bit of a laugh out of it. Yeah. Very cool. Definitely. Right, that's the same reason for me. Let's take a break. Let's go back to talking about the show for just a sec. So I do want to play something for you so people get a bit of an idea of who Kevin is, because Kevin's not with us on the show today, but I've got something that I guess I call Kev's greatest hits, if you want to listen to this for just a sec. I'm so excited. Listen up. Clean the fat out of your ears and listen up. This is the best we got. George Washington is a terrible guess. Yeah, I know, man. I'm sorry. We'll do the best we can, but fucking whatever. You don't even know how to spell what. And honestly, your shark picture is stupid. My God. That's the dumbest person I've ever seen wear glasses. You didn't get the earplugs at the front we didn't provide? So that's Kevin in a nutshell for everybody.
Man, the one thing that I'm always amazed at with the podcast is like, so I've literally been doing this like I said, 2-3 times, sometimes 5 times a week for the past 7 years. And every single time I'm editing, there will be at least one thing that Kevin says that will make me almost laugh cry. And I'm always like, dude, I've heard him say that joke hundreds of times.
Yeah.
I've heard him say that stuff to the audience hundreds of times, and still like
it just gets you. Yeah.
He just yeah.
And you can tell
knows how to make me laugh.
And you can tell it's just genuine between you two guys. There's nothing forced whatsoever. And that's what I mean. It's just really, really funny. And yeah, Kevin is a laugh riot, and his interactions with the audience are very funny.
He's great. It's like having a bouncer.
Yeah.
Like on tour, so many times people have tried to, fight me for not liking my answer or something. And
Yeah.
Kevin, for anyone that hasn't seen a picture of him, is a pretty scary looking dude. He looks like if one of the hobbits from Hobbiton also had like a meth addiction and had a switchblade.
Yeah.
That was, I want you to send me that clip. I'm gonna
Okay.
use that clip for our promotion. That's great.
Not a problem.
You really encapsulated him.
I thought it was pretty good. I laughed when I made it, actually, so it was good. You speak about interaction with the audience and sometimes people not liking, your answers to questions, things like that. Do you get a lot of that sort of reaction? Because when I listen to your show, it seems like there's a lot of regulars, although you do go to different parts of Canada, obviously, and you drive, 4 hours sometimes to get to those shows?
Yeah. Normally, like, I feel like the kind of people who hate us, they come once and they never come again, but the people that really do like us, overall, it seems like the majority of people have a good time.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there might be someone. I think it's probably people that have gone their entire life always being told that they're super cool and super right and have never been like called out ever in their entire lives. Recently we had a table of dudes who came to one of our trivias and were on their phones the whole time. I think this is one of the episodes. I don't know which one, but they were on their phones the entire time. And the entire time they were like swearing at us and throwing stuff at us. Oh. And Kevin just kept going into them, destroying them, and even said like, you don't know that I'll stop when you stop. Like, I will stop hurting you in front of your girlfriends when you guys stop being dicks. And for the most part, the rules of trivia, as long as you don't act stupid, we're not going to call you out. If someone has a dumb answer, they know if they put it down, we're not going to call them out. But if they leave it up, if they yell something at Kevin, if they try to fight us on an answer, it's like being in the splash zone at a water park, Yeah,
exactly. That's fair enough. And that's fair enough too, because I guess most people would know what they're getting before they sit down anyway.
Yeah, we normally try to let people know what's happening. I know a couple times at venues, there will be a family with small children, like kids that are 5 to 6 years old, and we'll go up to them, and the servers have already told them the same thing, like, hey, just this is an adult show. There's going to be some things, and the parents will always laugh and go, oh, they've heard worse at home. And we're like, no, they certainly have not.
As they walk out the door.
Yeah, and a couple times, like halfway through, the parents will stand up and the kids will walk out, and Kevin will always be like, Mom, what does eyeball chlamydia mean? And like, so for the most part, we let people know what's happening right beforehand. And
ever had anyone else, like, some older people or anything like that, just sit down and all of a sudden you see them walking out the door?
No, man, old people love us. We were so concerned our first time that we really had like anyone over the age of 60 come to us. We have a couple regulars that are around 55-ish, but over 60. I think of my own grandparents. A lot of the things that I say I would never say in front of my own grandparents. And the first time a group of people, probably around 80, came, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be so stressful. There's nothing worse than an old person hating you.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, like they were drawing penises on their boards. They were writing like,
right
fuck you. They were just 100% into it. And we were like, that was probably a one-off thing. They were probably just older people who used to be like this when they were younger too.
Yeah, of
And
course.
across the board, the majority of the people who come that are above the age of 65 love it. They love the ability to just be as rude and as crude as they possibly can, and they're right into it for the most part.
What have they got left?
Exactly, like minutes.
No, that's mean. So, but no, fair enough. That's good. And look, considering the adult nature of your show, most people would be very interested or surprised by your day job as such, which is
I'm a supply teacher by day. So I teach. I also teach kindergarten to grade 6, which is my greatest secret of all, because often I'll walk into a school and the principal or the other teachers will be like, "Aren't you that guy who last night said that thing to Jody when she wouldn't put her board down?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can lead 2 lives." And dealing with kids is a lot like dealing with really drunk, rambunctious people. They're really wild. They're really funny. They don't think about what they say, and we have a great time in both different scenarios. Obviously, my language cleans up about 120% the second that I step into a classroom.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. You're just sort of wrangling a group of people, making sure everyone has a good time, making sure everyone's learning, and making sure that everyone's fair to each other and having fun.
It's a good analogy, I guess. Young kids, drunk people, and puppies, and you treat them all the same way.
Pretty much.
Yeah, very
Pretty
good.
much.
Very good. All right. Look, why don't we get back into the countdown again? And we're up to number 6 from memory.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Cool. The Descent.
Good movie.
You've seen this one.
Yeah. Well, I've seen, the only one I haven't seen is The Guest, that movie.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so far, the only one I haven't seen is the Descent. The Guest. And The Descent, I remember watching this and liking it. Again, not so much that it was, something that could possibly happen, but I thought the whole movie was just a good movie. So anyway, you're supposed to be doing the review, not me. So
Yeah. No worries, dude. The Descent is one of those movies where it does a couple different things. At the end of the movie, you're kind of asked the question, did any of what just happened really happen? Or is it the result of a broken mind? Like, did that person go on this trip and do all those things to their friends and blame it on something else because she couldn't handle with the trauma of the thing that had happened to her?
yeah.
And then the other half of it is, I don't know if you've ever been spelunking before, but you know what happened recently with those kids in Thailand or whatever when they got stuck in a cave?
Yeah.
That's literally everyone's worst fear is getting trapped in a cave.
100%.
And then that part of it is believable. And then you just add in that little spice of the
subterranean monsters.
Dwellers, and you get a really interesting, unique movie because it's not a guy in a mask chasing you with a chainsaw for no reason. It's just animals hunting you, basically.
And all the Hollow Earth people are going, see, I told you. So
I knew it. The lizard people were on the other side the whole time.
That's it. So yeah, I must admit, that's I guess sort of I class it as maybe even sci-fi sort of horror to a certain. Oh, it's not science fiction, but it was a movie that's probably out of the norm for me in terms of I wouldn't call it just like the normal horror movies that I watch, and I had no problems watching that and going, yeah, that was pretty cool. I liked it, and like you said, the twist at the end just made the movie, to be honest, because it gave you something else to think about as well, which was really good.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different, and also the character development. All of those characters are likable and hateable in their own way. Everyone has a friend who would just say I know that we were supposed to go to this one place, and I know that we told everyone that we were going to this one place, but I knew that it would be awesome for us to discover this for ourselves. So no one knows where we are. No one's going to find us. I'm sorry. And you're like, oh, Kyle, you would do that. Or oh, Bethany, that totally is my friend who would do that type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Just that whenever a character is, again, it comes down to the believability of people that you can imagine doing those same things. It makes it a little bit, of a better film.
For sure, for sure. So number five on your list is
Cabin in the Woods. It takes all the good things about horror movies, all the tropes, and turns them into a really good, really gory, really scary, really stupid, campy horror film.
Yeah.
Where all, the classic, why would they go in the basement is answered. The classic, why would they pick up the thing is answered. The classic, how did that monster even get there is all answered. And it's all a nefarious plan to deal with some greater evil. And it's, it ticks all the boxes for me. The acting's great.
Yeah. Actually, the second Australian content too in the list, because Christopher Hemsworth. Yeah, he's in that. Yeah, and it's a big stretch for him. He plays a jock.
Yeah, I thought that he could play like a muscle-bound dude.
Yeah, I know. It's some acting chops there.
He's just such a scrawny little guy. Never would have thought a dude like that could play. I mean, next thing, what is he going to play next? Like a football guy or like some kind of superhero or something like that?
Well, who knows? That he may maybe have to go back and do some extra acting classes for that. So that's really stretch him. So
gonna have to do a couple more chin-ups for that.
Yeah. Look, to be honest, though, I love Chris Hemsworth because he's very good at taking the piss out of himself, and he's everyone here loves him. How can you not? He's a lovable kind of guy. So
yeah.
But
he seems that way.
Josh, this is probably going to be one of my favorite movies that you could have brought up, because the guy behind it, Joss Whedon, is like, I love Buffy, Firefly, Serenity, all that sort of stuff. Massive Buffy fan, so anything he does I know is usually pretty good. And my son, who had seen this, said, "Oh, you haven't seen Cabin in the Woods?" And I said, "Well, no." And so we watched it, and he said it's by Joss Whedon. I said, "Well, I'll give it a go." And like you said, it just brings up every trope from all the different horror movie sort of genre, and gives you answers to why stuff is the way it is, I guess. And
stuff goes the way it is.
It was really, and I thought it was really funny, especially when they were banking on the Japanese girls to actually come through, because the people in the cabin weren't doing what they were supposed to. They were getting away with stuff, and they thought, "Oh well, we've still got the girls in Japan who are being terrorized by that grudge-looking monster," and they ended up defeating it, and then it was all back on the people in the cabin in the woods. I thought it was really funny. Logistics behind horror.
I also was just looking. I know he wrote Firefly, but I'm seeing right now he wrote the screenplay for Toy Story. Apparently,
I didn't know that.
It says it on his IMDb, so it must be real.
It must be real. And to be honest, hey, look, I love Toy Story, so this is just another reason to love Joss Whedon.
There we go.
So, all right, cool. Number 4.
This one is a Netflix original, I think.
Okay.
Or at least I first saw it on Netflix. The Invitation. It is one of the most uncomfortable films I've ever seen. I have never sat through an entire movie squirming in my seat because I can't quite be comfortable the whole time, because the main character, you're watching him do these certain things that may or may not be right, and you as a viewer have no idea really whether he's right or not.
So this is the one with in 2015, Karen Kusama is the director, where the guy goes to his ex-wife's house.
Yes, and the ex-wife invites him and all of her friends over, and I think that they had some kind of they lost a child or something, and basically they're saying, join this
cult.
This cult, basically.
Yeah.
And they don't quite understand why they're there, and things get weirder and weirder and weirder until there's a conclusion for you as the viewer.
Yeah.
It's similar in style to The Guest in that you as the viewer don't really know what's happening until it's too late, and you're just really uncomfortable the whole time. And for me, that's my ultimate horror. Like, I can't even watch Saved by the Bell because I get so uncomfortable every time Screech is on the screen. Like, I hate uncomfortable comedy. It makes me physically nauseous. And this type of horror, where the horror is in you watching people squirm and be equally as uncomfortable as you, really does it for me.
Yeah, look, I must admit, the only reason I ended up seeing this movie was because when I'd watched Aeon Flux, one of the other movies that this person did, same thing, IMDb, The Invitation was on there, sort of thing, and I had a look at that, and I ended up rewatching it before we did the podcast because I sort of remembered it, but I wasn't sure if it was the same one, and I rewatched it and went, oh yeah, there's a big lead up and a big build up, but it's there for a reason. And
it's a huge build up. Part of you is like watching it and you're like, what, like, when is stuff going to happen? You know, like this was in the horror category, and I'm just wondering when, like, it is horrifying. It's very slow. It's an incredibly slow movie, but it's one of the few slow movies that I've been like, there is a huge payoff. Cool. And you have no idea what's going to happen. And also, again, the acting, like every actor is sort of I don't want to say B-list actor in case they're listening to this podcast and I hurt their feelings, but a lot of people are in there doing versions, doing a great job of being a character that they're not very well known for. Yeah. Like, I believe, what's this guy's name? John Carroll Lynch, who you kind of know as a big, lovable, doofy guy.
Yes. Yeah.
And instead, he is a very interesting person.
He is, and he's the only one that I actually sort of recognized out of that movie when I did watch it. And I must admit, from seeing him in other movies where he does play a more compassionate sort of person a lot of the time, the role he played in this movie was interesting.
Very different than the norm.
Yeah, very much so. Cool. All right, look, let's get to know you a little bit more as well. Let's take a break from the countdown. We'll get to the top 3 in a sec. But I did some light stalking on Facebook once we started to interact, and I saw a few streaming performances of you and your guitar and some pictures of DJing and things like that. Is music a big part of your life?
Oh my God, I was so worried. I thought you were going to say you found my nude pictures.
No, that's all right. They're in a separate file.
My goodness. Sorry. All right, thank God. Yeah, I used to, originally my entire creative juices went into music. I've been in a couple bands that you can listen to on Spotify.
Which bands? I didn't know.
Yeah, one of them is called White Coals. We have an album and an EP up on Spotify because my name is Cole, and my buddy's name is Dave White, so we were White Coals. Oh, nice. And it's sort of like a punk pop little thing that we had put together and played several shows, gone on tour a couple times, and then my solo stuff is some sad boy emo music. And people always say, I didn't of the type of music that I expected you to play, that would not have been the one that I would have thought. Okay. So Cole, if you look up Cole Fournier, I have an album and an EP of that too. And then, the DJing is basically, a buddy of mine was a DJ in town, and he was like, hey dude, you play music, you should try to learn how to DJ. And I was like, I don't want to. Like, I don't really think that would be great for me. And he sort of said, the basis of it is just knowing like your tempo, knowing how to listen to music, know when stuff is coming up, being able to count, being able to mix stuff together, knowing that certain songs sound good together. And I practiced for a couple of months in my room, and then got a couple gigs as DJ Dad Bod, because my body is nice and loose. And so just sort of always on stage, trying to just stay busy. Again, not so much anymore.
Not so much. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Look, and you've actually answered one question too that I was probably going to ask before we started. I didn't know if it was Fournier or Fournier. So it's Cole Fournier.
It's just the Canadian version, which is Fournier. Okay. That's what I tell the kids too. I say you can either call me Mr. Four, or you can call me Mr. Four, and then I do a number 4 with my hands. Yeah. And then I point to my knee and say knee, and then I say A, like the letter A, or the Canadians say A.
Yeah.
And then the kid will go Fournier.
Oh, perfect. Very, very helpful. That's good. So, and that's what they call you at school, Mr. Fournier. Okay. So, apart from music and everything like that, and trivia, and obviously all the work and things like that, you're not a big sports fan, as we've determined. Is there anything else that you have a big interest in?
Yeah, I do a lot of nerd things. Like I paint little miniature guys and play a lot of D&D.
You kidding?
I have like a whole little village that I made out of paper, like paper houses, papercraft houses, and
yes. Diorama type style things.
Lots of dragons, lots of castles, lots of stuff like that. So,
are you kidding?
That used to be. No,
sure?
That's 100% serious.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Because I've done exactly the same thing. I've painted my own urukai for my boys and things like that for a long time now. Oh, not for a long time, but I did when they were younger. So I appreciate that stuff.
Man, cool. Yeah, it used to be like when I was younger. I've been doing it since I was a little, like not a little kid, but since I was probably about 12.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, like being nerdy was not cool. I would get the poop kicked out of me if I did nerdy stuff or anyone knew about it. And even up until I was about 22, like I kept it hidden. And then all of the Marvel movies started coming out.
Okay.
And people were like going to see Iron Man, and like jocks that I knew were like, "Oh man, you see the new whatever movie?" And I was like, "What? You're not allowed to like that. You used to hit me for liking that." And now it's become more mainstream. Like, D&D is super mainstream. And I'm like, I don't have to hide this stuff under my bed anymore.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. That's cool. Well, it's something I didn't expect either. So, as I said, I probably appreciate that because not that I did it when I was younger. I played D&D when I was younger, and we played one of the first games I ever played on a computer back in the day when the computer we were playing on had a 20 megabyte hard drive. So old. It was called Dragonlance Chronicles, and it was based on So it was based on some books that I've actually read as well. Dragonlance Chronicles, so Test of the Twins, all that sort of stuff. So I started to actually paint miniatures for my boys when they were younger, and they put them in their room, and so that's something I didn't expect. So yeah, really cool.
I'll send you some pictures of my collection. It's pretty embarrassing.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot.
Fantastic.
I have a whole room.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
No, I'd like to see them. Yeah, definitely send them through. Now, one thing about, I was going to get back to the show that you do. I wanted to ask, what's the funniest, because there are so many moments that you can hear on the podcast that are funny, but what's the funniest thing you've ever heard or seen while you're doing the shows? And did it make it to the podcast, or? I already know. I already know the answer to it. Yeah. I was thinking as you were saying it, and I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to pick one. And I remembered it. And it was literally, sadly, the moment that I decided, yes, I have to record this podcast because I can't miss moments like this anymore. Oh. And it was a question about a centaur or something, or like a satyr, and about how the satyr it was like a satyr is a human's top hat, like Mr. Tumnus from the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yep. What bottom half does a satyr have? And someone wrote the incorrect answer, lion or something. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, it's a goat. And the woman, I don't really remember how it happened, but she said, my husband has a goat. My husband looks like a goat. And we were like, what do you mean your husband looks like a goat? And she just kept screaming it over and over because she was very drunk. And then we were like, okay, like we get it. You're trying to say something, but we're not quite getting it. She's like, what I'm trying to say is I'd rather suck a goat's dick than look at a man's face ever again. And like the entire room just stopped and tried to process that logic. Yeah.
Of like I don't want to even look at guys ever again. I would rather just put a goat's genitals in my mouth. And the entire room, like all 100 people in the room, just burst dying because she kept screaming it over and over and over. And we were like, we get it. We know how you feel about the goats.
It was a bad breakup.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's definitely the one moment. I don't think I've ever seen a room of people like cry, laugh, and it didn't have anything to do with us. We didn't do anything. We did not make the laughter happen. Her insistence on repeating that line. I'm sorry if this is a G-rated program.
No, it's whatever it is. So no, okay. That's fine. That's fine. Not a problem. Let's get to your last three. So these are going to have to be pretty good movies for someone who likes horror as much as you do. These will definitely have to stand out. So number 3.
This one is one that probably not a lot of people have seen. It's called All the Boys Love Mandy Lane.
I haven't seen it.
And it is about a girl that all the boys love. And she is she gets invited to this weekend away with the popular kids. And obviously there's a bunch of murders that happen, and she is trying to survive with these sort of strangers that are getting killed around her. Okay. And it's one of those movies. I can't really say too much about it because a lot of it is just in what's going on behind the scenes. Like the character development is really good. Everyone, even the really big shitheads in the movie, are kind of likable in a really minor way. Yeah. The deaths in it are super interesting and unique for a slasher film. Oh, okay. And it's just sort of an updated version of that classic slasher trope where there's an unkillable machine coming and taking out this group of high school kids who are at this cottage for the weekend.
Oh, well, I'm definitely going to have a look at it because I just had a look, and the guy who did it, Jonathan Levine, actually did one of my favorite zombie movies, Warm Bodies.
Oh, yeah. I love that movie, too.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So I'm definitely going to check that movie out. All the Boys Love Mandy Lane.
It's great. It's I don't even know if there's, I think everybody on there is like a C to D list actor, but they do a great job. It's not one of those movies where you're watching, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that they hired these people. Everybody does a fantastic job, and it's really good.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'll check it out. Definitely. Number 2.
This one is, if you are a horror fan, you cannot say that you are a horror fan if you do not enjoy Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. They recently tried to have they had a Kickstarter to do a sequel to it, which would have been amazing, but it didn't end up quite making the money that it had to. It's 2 movies in one. It starts off as a documentary about a guy who has decided that he's going to become the next household name in serial killing. He's going to be the next Chucky or the next Jason or the next, Freddy, whatever. Yeah. And a documentary crew is following him around as he describes how these murderers do everything. Like, so for example, how do you make it look like you're walking after someone when they're running away from you? He's like, it's all in the upper body. You gotta do like the speed walk. You gotta get the cardio up. So it kind of starts off as a comedy horror, and Robert Englund, who plays Freddy Krueger, is in the movie as a psychiatrist and sort of the nemesis of Leslie Vernon. And yeah, it's just a fantastic movie that switches about halfway through, suddenly switches its theme and turns into a actual horror movie where suddenly you're like, oh, okay, this guy is gonna go through with this. He's got a plan.
Yeah, I have seen this movie, and in terms of mockumentaries and stuff like that, I thought it was pretty funny, and I think my favorite part of the movie is what you just mentioned when it goes from being the documentary style to the full-on sort of movie. That change, that subtle change from camera angle in terms of bringing other people into the shot, and the way it changes to being a slasher movie from being a documentary, I thought that was really clever.
Yes, and also, like you said, with the camera angle, like I am not really big on a lot of the different stuff that people do with cinematography, but in that movie, seeing that actual physical change where suddenly it goes from like a handheld movie to a regular movie was a really cool, interesting thing. And as a viewer, it makes you recognize like, okay, this is a different movie now. This is suddenly this. it's not the same thing that you were watching for the first half where you were laughing.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And I must admit that I thought that was pretty clever the way they did that. So cool. All right. Number one. So this is going to have to be a really cool movie. What's your number one horror movie?
Okay. I was between this one and another movie. Oh my God, I can't remember the name of the other movie that I was going to say was going to be my number one that didn't even make it on the list. The other one was going to be You're Next, which is a fantastic movie about somebody, like a survivor girl, where the serial killers like burst through the room and they find out that the people that they're trying to kill, one of them happens to be the survivalist who's able to kill all the serial killers. She's just like a ninja. It's a nice twist.
Yep.
And I really like it, but it kind of fell into some of the same categories as these other ones with like a big twist where, there's the big twist. It's more fun than serious. Martyrs is French horror films spend 90% of their budget on gore. So Martyrs is the film that I chose. There's a whole bunch of French horror movies that I really love, but Martyrs is the one that I think does it in the most grotesque and tasteful way at the same time. It's similar to Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, in that it's kind of 2 to 3 different horror films in one. It's about a girl who has grown up in an orphanage who was abused, going and finding her abusers. She kind of thinks.
Hunts them down.
And a lot of things happen along the way. There's a lot of blood, a lot of guts, a lot of really horrifying moments of that body horror that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And I would have felt very wrong if I didn't include at least one film with that's in a different language than English, because so many other cultures do very different horror than us, and there was a couple that I wanted to include, but I kind of wanted the list to be things that people might have seen before. Oh no, you go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just going to say, look, you're completely right in terms of like, I was just going to speak on the point of international horror movies. So a lot of the ones that I've seen that I don't mind, like Quarantine, and so that was based on, I think, a movie called Wreck, which was a Spanish movie. I think it was a Spanish movie. And then there's a couple of Japanese movies that have been redone that in their original form are probably better than the American remakes. But
same with South Korean movies. Like I know that one of my favorite movies, but again, it's not really a horror, is like Old Boy. They made a remake of it.
Old Boy, fantastic.
Garbage.
Yeah. The original was great.
Yeah.
My son tried to get me to watch that for ages, Old Boy, and he said, "This is really good, Dad. You're going to really love it." And Korean cinema is really good. A lot of their stuff is fantastic to watch. It's a little bit left of center with some of the things that they do, but Korean cinema is really, really good.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch that I wanted to. Again, trying to whittle a list down that's about 100 down to 10 is difficult. And there was a couple that I wanted to include, but I was just kind of going off the ones that had an initial visceral response for me. But yeah, like Old Boy, one called I Saw the Devil, which is also a really good one about just a dude who finds his wife's murderer and tortures him and then lets him go and then hunts him down again and then tortures him and lets him go and hunts him down again. And you're like, this is, and watching something in a different language is also, it makes you pay a bit more attention to everything because you don't really pick up on the subtleties of the language.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really enjoy foreign films.
Look, Martyrs is one that I went and had a look at, and the movie was great. And there are a couple of scenes towards the end that are shocking. So it has that shock value, but the actual story behind it too is interesting because, like you said, once you think you know what the story's going to be about, then it changes, and then it changes again, and. I thought it was a really good movie. Is there a remake of the French Martyrs?
There's not a remake, but there's a English dub.
Oh, okay. You were mentioning that.
Yeah, so I remember telling people like when I first came to this movie, I was relatively young, like in 22 in a university. I told my friends like, you got to watch this movie, and a bunch of them watched it and was like, that's literally the worst movie I've ever seen. We couldn't even make it through the first 20 minutes. And I was like, what? I can't believe that. The first 20 minutes are like really happening. I could understand maybe losing interest in the half end, but whatever. And then I found out that they were watching the English dub version where two people are dubbing every single character. It's almost amazing that they managed to find two people. Like there's one scene where there's a family talking, and it's like, hey, I wonder what I'm doing for school today. I hope that I get something nice for lunch. Well, Johnny, I don't think that you need to worry that much. It's not that. Hey, well, Johnny, my friends went to school, and you're like, that's one guy doing every voice for the entire family overlapping, and it destroys it. So if you do happen to watch Martyrs, I urge you to please watch the actual French.
Yeah, I have seen the French
subtitled version.
Yeah, no, I do want to see the other one though, because at least 10 minutes of it just, or maybe sorry.
Yeah, just watch it for the first 10 minutes just to get a little taste of just how bad a decision can be.
Yeah, I don't think I'll make it past about 10, 15 minutes. So maybe I'll just watch that scene when they're all around the kitchen table. So, and that annoying girl is complaining. So. But anyway.
Doesn't complain for long.
Doesn't complain for long, no. So everyone, I urge you to go out and see. That's a pretty cool movie. So it's a solid top 10. That's definitely a very solid top 10. I had seen, I guess, probably 75%, and then I went and watched a couple of the ones that I hadn't seen. So, and I think you've come up with a really good 10 there. Like, I think if you ask anyone what their top 10 horror movies are, you're going to get a different 10 from nearly everybody.
Oh, totally. There's so much different stuff in the genre, and like people, like different things. Someone could give you a list and every single one is going to be a French horror movie. Someone could give you a list and everything is going to be like body horror, like Saw or Hostel, or the other ones that you had told me. What was the like a Serbian film?
Serbian, the Serbian film, and there's another one. I can't remember what the other one is, but yeah, I haven't seen that. My son told me about. He hasn't seen it either, but he told me that this was when I said that this was the subject that I was going to talk to you about. He said, "Oh, I bet he puts this movie on there because there's been so much furor over that movie."
It's because it's like that's the type of thing where that movie specifically is kind of shock for the purpose of shock.
Yeah.
And that's fun and good in its own way, but that's not really my thing. But for other people, that might be they're about that the most horrifying things that you can see on film.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm probably with you. I like to build up in a movie and a bit of a drama before you actually get to the I'm not a big slasher fan. I like the Cabin in the Woods and the Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon, in terms of something that makes fun of the genre a little bit as well. So yeah, no, good, solid top 10.
Well, thank you very much.
Not a problem. I guess probably now what we do is let everybody know where they can find the podcast, how they can get in contact with you and support Super Fun Time Trivia.
Yeah, for sure. The podcast is available on pretty much every single podcast source. Like, so if you have an app on your phone and you just type in Super Fun Time Trivia, 4 separate words, we should show up. We got a new logo, so it's like a yellow background with some dark blue, and we got a couple hundred episodes. As well, if you're interested in doing trivia online with us, we do it on Twitch once a month. We might be upping it to twice a month, and you can check that out at Super Fun Time Trivia as well. And Instagram, Facebook, all the places that the cool kids hang out. We're on all those things under the same name.
Now, just on the online trivia, you're on Twitch. Do you need the Cohort app as well?
You don't. The only thing that you need the Twitch app for is if you want to chat. So there's like a live chat that shows up on the screen, and people call us stupid poo-poo heads and all that.
Okay.
People get to yell back at us, and we can't specifically tell who it is. So
fair enough. They can lurk.
Yeah,
very good. Look, Colt, thank you very much for agreeing to do this, mate. This is only the second one that I've done so far, and it's been a lot of fun. And look, once all this madness of Corona and everything like that is over, maybe we could get you back on and we can count down another top 10, and maybe we could even get Kevin on and see if we can count down his top 10 Backstreet Boy singles or something like that. I'm sure that would be interesting. He'd love doing something like that. So
he would never want me to say this, but he actually doesn't hate the Backstreet Boys as much as he puts on.
Oh, you really? It's interesting.
He knows several of the words. Several of them.
That's interesting. That's ammunition. So.
Oh yeah, loaded gun. Anyways, thanks so much for having me, dude. It was an awesome time, and thanks for letting me nerd out about my horror movie interests and finding out that you too are a closet nerd.
Yes.
Painting some urukai.
Yes, definitely. So not a problem, mate. It's a pleasure. It's been fantastic, and hopefully this is a show you won't have to apologise to your mum for.
I think this might actually be the only one that I can get away without doing that.
Okay, not a problem. All right, mate. Thank you very much. You have a good day and a good rest of the week, and I guess I'll catch up with you in the future.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Thanks, mate. So that's it. And if you're wondering what that whistling was in the background at the end of the interview, that was actually a kettle boiling on the stove behind Cole that he couldn't hear because he had his headphones on. So that was something fun to listen to when we finished the interview. So I hope you enjoyed the chat as much as I did, because Cole's a really interesting guy, and I hope you'll give his show a listen. And while you're at it, check out his music with White Coals. It's really good. I'll put all the links to where you can find his work in the show notes. And if you like this show, please let me know at MyGuestListPod, on our Gmail, on our Twitter, and at Instagram. Help me get better. All constructive criticism welcome. Also, if you would like to be on the show or would like to see a certain host of a podcast be a guest on the show, just contact me and we'll see what we can do. Join me again in 2 weeks when we chat and have some fun with another podcast host. Thanks for your time.